Hello friends, welcome back to EduTap Himachal Pradesh Administrative Services channel. In this session, we are going to continue with the previous year questions discussion with regard to the topic economy or the subject economy. And in this session, we will be covering year 2019 and 2020 questions. So let's proceed ahead with the first question now. So the first question which was asked from the Indian agricultural section, and the question was related to the trends of an important commodity, that is the rice, and it was asked in the year 2019. So the first question which is read as, among the following, which one is the largest exporter of rice in the world in last 5 years? And the options given were China, India, Myanmar and Vietnam. If you think now, this was a kind of factual question, and if you knew the data, you would have easily answered it. China is the largest consumer of rice in the world, and India stands second. So we cannot have an elimination approach over here, because you would be confused between you could eliminate Myanmar and Vietnam. They are not then you would be confused between these two options. You had to know the exact data, but you could put up a logic which says that China, which is the largest consumer of rice, so since it has a large amount of population to feed itself within the country, so it cannot be exporting to the outside world. But this is a kind of logic which will not fit per se exactly or precisely, but you could extend this sort of logic and eliminate China. But the answer is correctly India, and we'll look at what exactly were the reasons which led to India standing top in the export list. So India's share in world exports of rice in recent year, that is 2014 to 18, was around stood at 25 to 26%, and it emerged as the world's largest rice exporter in the year 2011-12, displacing Thailand. Thailand was earlier, or the erstwhile top exporter of rice in the world, and there are two reasons behind this, that why did India rise to the top. These two factors are, first decision is Indian government's decision in Feb 2011 to lift a 4-year ban on export of non-basmati rice, so which led to an increased share of exports from the India. This was one reason, and along with that we saw similarly India's exports increased and Thailand's export decreased. What was the reason for Thailand decrease in the share of Thailand's export? Thailand government under the prime ministership of Shinawatra in the same year favored the farmers that we will be procuring the huge amount of rice, whatever rice you are going to give us to the government, we will procure it on an open basis, and that to an enhanced price of 50% vis-a-vis the year 2010. So this led to the fall in the export of the Thailand, and vis-a-vis the Indian exports increased. So these are the two reasons which led to the India's exports share in export of rice rising. And now let us look at the trend. If you can see that India stands first, then Thailand, then comes the Vietnam. So this is the trend which is released by APEDA, that is the Agricultural Product Export Development Association. So that is with regard to the first question. Now let us look at the next question. So this question is from the International Economic Institutions, economic issues and the institutions. So this is a kind of straightforward question. There is nothing much to think here. Which of the following are called Bretton Woods twins? And the options given are IMF, that is the International Monetary Fund, and the IBRD, International Bank for Reconstruction and Development, which is a wing of the World Bank Group. Then IMF and WTO, which stands for World Trade Organization. Then IBRD and WTO. Then none of the above. So if you had read the economic history of the world, you would have easily got to know that IMF and IBRD is the answer. This is a kind of straightforward and factual question again. So WTO, which was also supposed to be constituted during the post-World War II itself, but was delayed and was constituted on 1st Jan 1995. post the conclusion of Uruguay round of talks. So this is the answer. Now let us, so why did these institutions were formed, why were they formed in the year 1945 or 1944? See, 43 countries came to a roundtable conference and had concluded that we need institutions like IMF and IBRD, because post the World War II, entire world global economy was shattered. So in order to restore the global economy and keep its wheel functioning, so they had the both the institutions were formed at an place called Bretton Woods in New Hampshire. In New Hampshire, which is located in USA. Hence, it is they are named as Bretton Woods twins. So these are the two institutions which are IMF and the World Bank. So World Bank majorly focused on rebuilding the global economy, or the global, you could say Germany was shattered the most, which was a part of the losing part of the World War II. So in order to build the economy or the places, see, the Eastern Europe and the Western Europe was completely shattered because of the World War II wrath that was left behind by the Axis group. Axis and the Allied group were the two fronts which were Allied group, which was part formed by USA, USSR. So it emerged as the victorious. So because of the World War, a large part of the world was shattered. So in order to rebuild the world and rebuild the infrastructure that had seen a large-scale devastation, the IBRD was formed, which is a wing of the World Bank. And IMF was also formed, which was whose main purpose is to resolve the BOP crisis of any country within a short period of time. So these are the Bretton Woods twins. Now let us look at the next question. So this is from the miscellaneous topics. So the question reads as, which was again asked in the year 2019. Which of the following is an example of, the keywords here are management performance indicator, and the options given are raw material used per unit of product, number of complaints from public or employees, containment concentration in surface soil, and the change in groundwater level. See, this is a kind of out of the topic, out of the conventional topics. Out of the conventional topics, and this is a part of decision making, which is also falling under the miscellaneous topic of the economics. So if you look at the options, before proceeding ahead, let us understand a few things about the company or an organization. There are two wings of a company. One is the top executive, or the top executive, also known as the management wing. Then the other one is the operational wing, and there are many other wings. For simplification, we are considering these two wings. That is the operational performance, or the operation, consider it as a manufacturing firm. So if it is involved in the manufacturing of bicycles or the automobiles, then the operational wing is a different wing, which will be involved in or engaged in the production of all the automobiles. But the management wing will be the wing which will be taking care of the reputation of the company, such as resolving the grievances of the employees, as well as the customers. So this is the performance, or the main vital function of a management department. And how is its performance measured? Using this vital indicator, that is the management performance indicator, is measured whether it has been able to resolve all the grievances or the complaints from the public, as well which is who are its customer, and as well as its employees. So these three, that is raw material used per unit of product, is an operational part, and containment concentration in surface soil, it is also falling under operational, and change in groundwater. So if there is any project that is being carried out, then these are all the operational aspects. This is the management aspect. Hence the answer in this particular case is option B. So the question was management performance indicator, hence the option was B. It did not ask about the operational part. So now let's move on to the next question, which was asked in the year 2020. Now if you have looked at the previous discussions that we have talked in three sessions that we did talk about the previous year question that have been asked in HPAS prelims from 2016 to 20. So one topic which was asked, there were few topics which were asked repeatedly, and they were human development, poverty, unemployment, and equality. So, and the government budgeting. These were few topics, and apart from that, these are the major topics which have been asked repeatedly. The examiner has been testing on these topics repeatedly, and again we find a question on human development. So you have to be thorough with these topics whenever you are attending the next examination. The whole idea behind this previous year's question is to give you an idea that how do you channelize or streamline your preparation based on these previous year questions. So this acts as a anchor or the vital indicator for your preparation. So now let us look at the question which was asked in the 2020 prelims of HPS, and again it was from the human development chapter. So the sustainable development goal, that is good health and well-being, this is the key word here, and it is pertinent to SDG 3. You have to remember all the SDGs which are important for your mains as well, because you can mention them as a concluding part in any of your answers. So SDG 3 has shown improvement in India due to options are clean water and sanitation, decline in maternal mortality ratio, better access to housing, and widespread waste collection and processing. So if you had just gone through the 17 SDGs, even just the names of it, then you would have easily answered this question, because this clean water and sanitation is talking about SDG 6, this is talking about SDG 12, or there is other SDG, reducing the waste, responsible consumption and all, and better access to housing. So these all three SDGs are not at all related to good health and well-being. So you can eliminate all these three options and just come to the conclusion that option B is the answer, and in this case it was B. Now let us look at every SDG has a further sub targets to be attained within that particular goal. That is, SDGs have to be attained from 2000 by 2030, and there are 17 SDG goals, 169 targets. So what are these targets? Consider SDG 3, which is good health and well-being. Within that SDG we have targets, sub-targets as 3.1 is reducing maternal mortality ratio, and it says that we have to by 2030 across the globe we have to attain the MMR of 70 per 1 lakh live births. So this is a target that has to be achieved by 2030, and the next one is end all preventable deaths under 5 years of age. So it talks about child mortality rate. And target 3.3 talks about fighting communicable diseases, and target 3.4 talks about reduce maternal mortality from non-communicable diseases and promote mental health. So similarly there are various other targets. So this slide highlights that every goal of SDG has within it many sub targets, and they have to be attained so that the United Nations will have a metric. Through these sub-targets, it will have a metric that how has the world performed in the last 15 years. So this was with regard to the SDG 3 question. Now let us move on to the next question. So the idea behind what can we take from this particular, the takeaway from biggest takeaway from this particular question is that the question might not be repeated in the upcoming examination, but it gives us an anchor or a channel to prepare for the upcoming examination along these lines. So SDGs are again an important part of our preparation. So now let's move on to the next question. So again the question is from unemployment, poverty and inequality. This topic's importance cannot be highlighted furthermore, because examiner has asked from this particular topic every year at least 2 questions. So you have to be thorough with this question, this topic. So in this particular question, the question is, what is the minimum calorie requirement in rural areas, keywords, for measuring poverty? and the options given are 2100 calories, 22, 23, 24 and 3100 calories per person per day. So if you had read about this poverty estimation in India, which started from the year 1973, poverty estimation in India started from 1973 by the Planning Commission. It formed various committees in order to measure the poverty line within the India. So the first committee that was formed was Alag Committee, then the Lakdawala Committee. Other two important committees are Tendulkar Committee, Suresh Tendulkar Committee and the Rangarajan Committee. Rangarajan Committee. So these committees have come up with important metrics that the ways to measure the poverty, and they have described that what is the persisting poverty that exists during the different frames of time when they were formed. So if you had looked at the recommendations or the important outcomes of these reports, then you could easily answer this question, because this is a direct question which is a part of Lakdawala Committee, and the answer was 2400 calories per person per day, whereas for the urban area, this is for rural area, and for urban area it is 2100. So if you can think why the rural area is higher calorie consumption vis-a-vis the urban areas, it is because in rural areas people go out and engage themselves in more of the physical activities, hence the number was higher. So the answer in this particular case was option C. If you look at these persons, the Alag Committee which was formed in the year 1977, and there is a Lakdawala Committee which was formed in the year 1989, and this is the value that has been given by this particular committee. And here is the Suresh Tendulkar Committee and the Rangarajan Committee. So you go through all the important outcomes or the suggestions given by the different committees, which form an important fodder for your upcoming examination. So now let's move on to the next question. So the question was from the topic government budgeting, which was asked in the year 2020. So match list 1 with list 2 and choose the correct answer from the given options. So the list 1 is talking about the type, and list 2 is growth rate in the year 2018-19. So net tax revenue, non-tax revenue, gross tax revenue and non-debt capital receipts. So if you had gone through the government budgeting part during the studying of the budget, you would have come across all these terms very often, and the clarity, I think you would have established the clarity by now and easily understand these terms. And but again in the list 2, the different sets of options given were 6%, 22.3%, 8.4% and minus 2.4%. You have to match the list 1 with the list 2. So if you go through this question, this is a kind of difficult question. And it was the data or the values were directly taken from the economic survey of the Himachal Pradesh. So what does it suggest us? That before planning to attend or before attending the next examination of the prelims, you have to be thorough with the economic survey of Indian government and as well as the Himachal Pradesh government. And apart from that, budget of the respective Indian government as well as the Himachal Pradesh government. The questions can be asked directly from the data that has been quoted in the economic survey as well as the budget. So in this particular case, the options were, here you could not use any elimination approach. This question is kind of difficult in nature, hence you have to know the exact data, and in this particular case the answer was option C. So that is, net tax revenue is around 6%, the non-tax revenue is around 22.3%, the gross tax revenue is 8.4%, and non-debt capital receipts were minus 2.4%. Here I would like to just give you an idea that the net tax revenue, that is the tax revenue that has been collected and the amount which has been used for the collection purposes, that is the people who go out, their traveling expenses, everything is deducted. So the collection charges are deducted out of the total gross tax revenue, then we get the tax revenue. So you can always come to the conclusion that net tax revenue is lesser than the gross tax revenue. So this is one key takeaway. And non-tax revenue, you know that. So based on the particular data, the option was answer C, and this was directly taken from Himachal Pradesh Economic Survey. So now let us look at the next question. again from the important topic, that is the government budgeting, and it was asked in the year 2020. So according to FRBM Act, which is Fiscal Responsibility and Budgeting Management, which was passed in 2003. So India's fiscal deficit should not exceed, and the options given were 2% of GDP, 3% of GDP, 4%, 3.5. So this is an easy question, because this is directly taken from the FRBM Act, and this has been cropping up or has been used in newspaper various or oftenly. So if you had been reading newspaper in a consistent manner, then you would have been easily able to answer the question that the answer is option C. Now let us look at few of the recommendations that were given by the FRBM committee. So the fiscal deficit was to be reduced by 3% and gradually reduce it to 2.5% by the year 2022 to 23, and the other indicators that were used within this as a part of recommendations by the FRBM Act were revenue deficit, fiscal deficit, and the total debt that has to be controlled by the respective governments, that is the state government as well as the central government. And the targets that were mentioned for the revenue deficit was that it has to be reduced to 0.8% by the year 2022 to 23, bringing it down from 2.1% in the year 2017 to 18. And similarly, the debt has to be reduced. So these are the important recommendations of the FRBM Act. Now let us look at the next question. So again from the topic government budgeting, its importance can't be highlighted more. So you have to be thorough with the government budgeting part. So the question is on basic terminologies. So what does it say? A revenue deficit is the excess of revenue expenditure over the revenue receipts, and the statement 2 is effective revenue deficit is the difference between the revenue deficit, which is being talked about here, and the grants for creation of capital assets. And there are different permutation combinations of one is correct and incorrect. So if you knew the basic terms of what is revenue deficit and the effective revenue deficit, you would have been easily able to answer this question. In this particular case, both the statements are correct. That is option A is the answer. Let us look at these terminologies. So revenue deficit is nothing but the excess of expenditure minus the revenue receipts, and fiscal deficit is total expenditure by the total receipts, which total receipts comprises of revenue receipts plus recovery of loan and other capital receipts. So apart from that, this is also non-debt capital receipts. So this is the component. The debt receipt doesn't fall under the fiscal deficit. Fiscal deficit also implies the borrowings of the central governments. So whatever is the shortfall, that is the total expenditure that has to be made by the government by subtracting the total revenue, the deficit is filled by the borrowings. That is the meaning of the fiscal deficit. And the effective revenue deficit is the revenue deficit over here and the grants given for the creation of capital assets. So these are the basic terms that you learn as a part of the government budgeting chapter, and it was asked directly in the examination. So now let us look at the next question. So before proceeding ahead, what are we trying to understand again by solving these questions? That these are the we get an idea that what are the kind of questions that have been asked in the previous examination and how do we channelize our preparation. So based on these resources or the questions which act as an important guidelines for our preparation in the upcoming examination, so you can prepare along those lines. So now let us look at the next question, which was again from the chapter development. So the phenomenon of demographic dividend of a country is related to. This is an again easy question because this is a definition based question. Directly definition based. That what do you mean by the demographic dividend of a country? This is the keyword over here. And the options given were a sharp decline in the total population, which is not right, a decline in the infant mortality rate, not right, an increase in the sex ratio, no, and increase in the population in the working age group. So this is the right answer. There is nothing much to discuss here as this is a directly definition based question. Now let us look at the next question, which is asked from the topic, that is institution and bodies and again in the year 2020. So it is a statement based question. The two statements are: the Container Corporation of India Limited is under the administrative control of the Ministry of Defence. This is the first statement. And the second statement reads that Dedicated Goods Transport Corridor Corporation Limited is under the administrative control of the Ministry of Railways. See, first of all, this is a kind of moderate question. The reason why this question was asked most probably is because the Ministry of Railways is an important ministry, and maybe the other reason that might have been is that these PSUs, these both are the public sector units, they might be in the news. So, and there are other n number of reasons, we do not exactly know that, but since this question is asked, you had to know the answer. But here you cannot make an educated guess because it is a kind of factual question and you have to know the exact ministry under which they are performing. Hence, and in this particular case, the Container Corporation of India Limited, which is also known as CONCOR, is under the Ministry of Railways, not the Defence. Hence the option 1 is wrong. And the second option, which is second statement, which talks about Dedicated Goods Transport Corridor Corporation Limited, is under the Ministry of Railways. So this is right. So statement 1 is incorrect and statement 2 is correct, and the correct answer was option D. So if you look at the important PSUs, that is the public sector undertakings which are under the Ministry of Railways, under the administrative control of the railways, so you can find that the first option, which is Dedicated Goods or the Freights Corridor Corporation of India Limited, is under the Ministry of Railways, and the other one was Container Corporation of India Limited. And apart from that, these are the other PSUs which you can go through, so which might be asked in the future examination, we never know. Now let us look at the next question. So the last question of the day is asked from the miscellaneous topics in the year 2022. Arrange the following steps in relation to the self-help groups. So self-help groups is an important part, and it has been a revolution when it comes to attaining the goal of financial inclusion. In the government's goal of financial inclusion, SHGs has emerged as the important tool. Hence, SHG becomes an important topic, and these are the 4 options that have been given here. So the first option is we have to arrange the following steps in a proper sequence. So the first option is lending, repayment, and maintaining accounts and records. So how do we maintain records? First of all, there needs to be some transaction happening, only then we can maintain the records. So that is the logic. And apart from that, arrange regular meeting with the groups. Identify the area and forming of a group of women with the common interests, and deciding on the amount for contribution and pooling the money. So if you can think logically, that the accounts section will come only when you decide the amount for contribution and pooling of the money. So 1 has to follow 4. So if you look at the options over here, you can eliminate these 2 options. You are left with these 2 options. Now let us look at the other options. Identifying the area and forming of a group with the women. So only once, the first and foremost step when you are trying to form any organization is formation of the group. After that, you can have the meetings within the group. So first will be formation of the group, that is option 3. Then we'll have regular meeting within the groups. So if you had thought logically within the examination, just by looking at the question, not be frightened or get a shock in the form of the question, just think logically, you would be able to answer such questions. And the particular answer in this question was option C itself. So you can think that logically, first we form a group, arrange the meetings, then decide on the pooling or the contribution from an individuals, then we maintain records of all the financial activities that have been conducted by the SHGs. So that's all we have in this particular session. Now for more such interesting videos, subscribe to our channel, and thank you.